This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Now, in the description box, you will find an article from Lennox Lewis. And Lennox Lewis has written his own column, and it's one hell of a statement on his views on the heavyweight division in general, and of course, the Wilder versus Fury part, which takes up the main subject of his article. Obviously, I'm not going to read it out all for you, because I'll be reading for like the next 20 minutes to you. You guys can go read it at your own leisure. But I have pulled out some bullet points on here that, we'll get into with some of them right now. Obviously, I'm not going to cover everything. So what he's saying is, initially, the heavyweight division, it's now popping, and he considers that there's 3 top heavyweights, and then there's everybody else. That's pretty much how he says it, with the fact of Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. They're the top 3, the big 3, as he calls it. And then there's everybody else. And by that, he's not coming across as disrespectful to everybody else. He's saying everybody else as in Dillian White, Dominic Brazil, Luis Ortiz, and so on. Okay, although he did put Brian Jennings in there, but Brian Jennings has just lost to Oscar Rivas, so I'm not too sure why he'd be in there. But anyway, but he did say that any of these guys could beat any of the top 3, but at the minute, the whole heavyweight division is focused around the top 3. Why? Because you've got the undisputed prospect, and of course with lineal, all that kind of stuff. So, listen, that's a fair point as to right now. If anybody else wants to break into that, then they have to face one of these top 3 and defeat them. I get that point. Now, one of the points on here is that he's saying that Anthony Joshua, he's been marketed very well. Obviously he was an Olympian, and right from the get-go, he was put onto Sky Sports. So his profile was being built, he was being managed and marketed in such a way that it will come across to the public as a good guy, and he gives Joshua props for that. But the fact that he's saying that Joshua, he looks good, he speaks well, he handles himself good, and whatever's put in front of him, he has dealt with. But he is having digs with it by saying he hasn't fought the best. He's being marketed, in other words, he's being protected. That's pretty much what Lennox Lewis is saying. Not in so many words, although I could be reading that totally wrong, that's for sure. But one of the points on here is that he's talking about Joshua versus Wilder. And he says that his frustration is back to the fact that although Anthony Joshua is making the effort now to try and get the fight with Deontay Wilder, he's pretty much insinuating that he's only doing it knowing that Wilder and Fury want their rematch. So he's not serious. That's kind of the gist that I'm getting from it. But also he's saying that even if he is making the effort, he's frustrated that he didn't make the effort in the middle of 2018, right before Joshua took on Povetkin. So he's saying that a champion should never be offered a flat fee. He's saying that Wilder should have been offered a percentage split. Again, I can't disagree with that too much. But again, he says that the flat fee that was offered, which was actually 15 million, based on the fact that Wilder had only ever earned 2.1 million in his highest ever payday. So you're talking, 7 times more money, maybe 8 times more money than what he's ever made before. And he says that it's a disrespect to offer a flat fee. So I need to counteract that one real quick, which is the fact that it's based on marketable value. If one guy is only at a highest value of 2.1 million and you're offered 15 million, that's a very good offer. But again, let's counteract that one again. The fact that Lennox Lewis says this, when Lennox Lewis fought Evander Holyfield, he took a flat fee of $10 million. So again, you see, he's not alluding to that bit. So he is skating over it. And again, he is favouring Wilder. In other words, he's giving Wilder the pass for not accepting the contract. But here's the other thing. Now, Lennox Lewis did say he's not privy to all negotiations. But listen, we know that he's very good friends with Wilder. But the thing is, though, if you're offered $15 million, as Wilder was, and Wilder accepted all the terms, all the conditions, everything, a contract came through, and then they didn't sign it. So he accepted $15 million. And that $15 million was more than what he made against Tyson Fury. Okay? So, there's that one. Now, again, okay, so before we leave that contract bit, one of the reasons that Shelley Finkel said that they're not going to sign it is the fact that there was no date and no venue. But we knew it's going to be October, last week of October or first week of November. So you're talking a 2-week period there. You're talking, 2 weekends, okay, difference. And the venue was 100% going to be the Principality in Cardiff, Wales, for the 80,000. Ideally, it would have been Wembley, but as we know, Showtime didn't want to put it on Wembley because the only day that was available for Wembley was September 22nd, which is when Joshua took on Povetkin, right? And for him to have took on Wilder, it's no problem here in the UK side, but in America, Showtime didn't want that on pay-per-view because it was only 1 week difference between Triple G and Canelo, the rematch. They didn't want 2 pay-per-views back-to-back, 2 weekends in a row, and they felt that the pay-per-view would suffer. So that's why Principality was the one on offer, okay? So now he's saying, as far as the percentage splits and everything go now, so all that aside, we're talking about today, that Joshua he is the A side, and this is what Lennox Lewis says, he is the A side, and him being the unified champion, he does call the shots. In other words, he decides when the fight will be, where the fight will be. In other words, he's saying, if Joshua's saying, come to the UK, then Wilder should come to the UK. So he's not necessarily pushing Joshua to America, but later on in the article, he kind of does. So again, let's counteract that one. He's right that Joshua should decide where it is. Joshua is the one who's done all the hard work. He is the one who's made the heavyweight division popular again. Before Anthony Joshua come along, people weren't really talking about it because it was a Klitschko era, right? So this time, he's saying that Joshua, because he's the A side, he should offer Wilder a 60-40 split, maybe 55-45. Okay, so again, Joshua has offered 40% to Wilder. He has done that. But nowhere in this article that Lennox Lewis gives this huge statement does he say, well, okay, so Eddie Hearn has offered 40%, so therefore Wilder should at least respond to an email. He doesn't even mention the fact that Wilder isn't even responding to emails. But he's saying that Joshua should offer 40%, potentially 45%. So what he's doing is he's giving Wilder that extra 5% to say, well, that's why I'm not taking it, because they're refusing to give me 5%. And then they'll get on Joshua's back saying, why can't you just give him 5% more? But if you guys look on your screen right now, you will see that originally Lennox Lewis, only 7-8 months ago, he said that it should be a 75-25 split in favour of Joshua. Because his exact words were, as you can see on the screen right there, at the very bottom paragraph there, or the very bottom line, sorry, that he says, it's 3 belts first one, cut it up like that. So that's 75-25, correct? So how did we get from 25% to 45%? How did that happen? When Joshua has defended his titles against Alexander Povetkin, who Deontay Wilder previously avoided, and a very, very dangerous heavyweight. Even Lennox Lewis said he's a very dangerous heavyweight. And Deontay Wilder took on Tyson Fury after Tyson Fury was 2.5 years out the ring, ballooned massively in weight, putting drugs in his system, alcohol, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, ended up in hospital, had his boxing license took from him, all his belts stripped from him, and then he comes back, he fights 2 cab drivers, and Deontay Wilder couldn't get a job done on him. So how is it that Deontay Wilder, who lost that fight, even Lennox Lewis says that Deontay Wilder lost that fight, so how does his percentage go up 20% from getting a draw on record, but really we all know it was a loss? So how did Joshua's percentage drop, but Wilder's percentage go up? So again, he doesn't clarify that bit when originally he said 25% to Wilder. Now he's saying 40 to 45%. But as I said, 40% has been offered, but they're not even responding to email. So again, Lennox Lewis, he doesn't even mention that part. Okay. Now, as far as the other ones go, I mean, he's saying that, Joshua, he's been managed very, very well. And he has been managed very well. Of course he has. Unfortunately, whether people like it or not, boxing is a business. Some of us find it interesting. Some of us find it not interesting. All we want to see is the fight. Don't care how the fight happens. Just get the fight done. Percentages, money offered. Many people just don't care about it. People just want to say, listen, just get the damn fight done, whatever it is. But again, it's very easy to count somebody else's money, isn't it? It is. It is. Now, he says that while Wilder, he would get more money for fighting Joshua, Joshua would also get more money fighting Wilder. But not really. Not that much more, because probably the amount of money that it would generate more, Joshua would probably get there or thereabouts of anyway. But it's Wilder that's getting the pay rise, not necessarily Joshua. I'm sure Joshua will get a bit of a pay rise, but it won't be 7-8 times more money than he's ever made in his career, will it? And Lennox Lewis knows that. Lennox Lewis has took flat fees before. And Lennox Lewis says that his whole goal throughout his career was be cleaning up the heavyweight division, proving he's the best by taking on the best, which he did. But he took on the best at the end of his career and their career. He didn't beat these guys in their prime. He didn't beat Mike Tyson in his prime. When he took on Vitaly Klitschko, he didn't give him a rematch. Listen, I agree that the fight should have been stopped. But at that point, Lennox Lewis was losing the fight. And many people saying you should give Vitaly Klitschko another crack. But he didn't. Against Evander Holyfield, they had 2 fights. Fair enough. But the first one was deemed a draw. Much like Wilder versus Fury, when Lennox Lewis should have got the decision. Tyson Fury should have got the decision. They had the rematch. They rectified it. So him saying now that Wilder and Fury need to get it on to settle it. Again, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with it at all. I have no issues with that fight. The issue I have is that Team Wilder were talking about for so long that how they want Joshua. They don't care about money. They just care about legacy. So why didn't he accept the 15 million originally? We know he took on Tyson Fury because he's seen Tyson Fury as a weak, easy opportunity to get a name on his resume. And it backfired on him spectacularly. Now again, he says, why is it that Joshua didn't make as much effort trying to fight Wilder as what he did with Charles Martin? But again, he leaves out the fact that, first of all, he paid Charles Martin a flat fee, okay? And the fact that it was a chance to become world champion. When Charles Martin approached Joshua didn't approach Charles Martin. Many people, including Lennox Lewis, were saying at the time that it's a risky move for Joshua. Even if he wins, he's then got the target on his back. And he says that in this article as well, but he did actually say it at the time. It's one thing to become a champion, it's nothing to stay a champion. So him making an effort with Charles Martin, not really. He offered him a flat fee where Joshua got a small pittance to fight Charles Martin to get that belt. Bearing in mind, Charles Martin is a PBC fighter. Why didn't Deontay Wilder do it, Lennox? You want to talk about how Anthony Joshua defeated Charles Martin to become champion. Why didn't Deontay Wilder do it? Well, it's an in-house fight. Both these guys, PBC. So again, he doesn't mention that part. He talks about how Joseph Parker got a 35% split. Well, actually, he didn't, you see. It was negotiated down to 32.5%. Okay, listen, it's only 2.5%. But then it was changed, again, according to Eddie Hearn, it was changed to a flat fee where Joseph Parker got a guaranteed £8 million. So Wilder has already been offered double what Joseph Parker got. So there's so many contradictions for Lennox Lewis. But you see, again, Joshua took on Joseph Parker. Why didn't Wilder do it? Why did Wilder only offer Joseph Parker $5 million, which is about half of what he got to take on Joshua? So why is that? So why is it that what Anthony Joshua has done, whether you like Joshua, whether you don't, whether you think he's been gifted decisions, whether you think that he's been maneuvered in the right way and cherry-picked, it doesn't matter what you think. Fact is, he did it. Why didn't Wilder do it? Why is it that Wilder's had double the fights? Why is he never unified? Why is it when he became champion on 33 fights, his team said, we're not ready for Vladimir Klitschko, we're not ready. He's still a baby, he's still a prospect. You remember that? On 33 fights. That's 11 fights away for Joshua. So why does Joshua have to do everything? Why does Joshua have to concede? Why does Joshua have to do all the chasing? Why didn't Wilder do it? Again, he doesn't mention any of that. So he's trying to be a little bit politically correct in all this one. He's blaming Eddie Hearn a lot. He's blaming Joshua a lot. But no fingers pointed at Deontay Wilder in this article at all. Unless I've missed a paragraph somewhere, because it is quite long. But listen, he does say that Tyson Fury, he came in and swooped it away. But again, Tyson Fury admitted that Tyson Fury told Deontay Wilder, don't fight Joshua, fight me. And Deontay Wilder agreed. Why? Because he's seen it as a cherry pick. So Tyson Fury had a hand in Deontay Wilder not fighting Joshua. By Tyson Fury's own words. Then Tyson Fury went in there and he beat Wilder. Wilder got a gifted decision draw, which is ridiculous. And now for the rematch, they're trying to get the fight over in America again. It should be in the UK. Now, Lennox Lewis, he says that, he had to go to America to fight. He had to be the travelling one to ensure of the big fights. You lived in America, Lennox. You never lived in the UK. So you fight in America. Okay, so he was raised in Canada. He was born in the UK but raised in Canada. But him fighting in America is home to him. Him fighting in the UK is pretty much away. He's the away fighter, really. And back then, the heavyweight division was popping in America. Nowadays, it's popping in the UK. And Lennox Lewis, listen, he's old school. He can't get his head around that part. That is a different generation now. It's a different era. But anyway, so I'm going to put the article in the description box for you all. As I said, it's one hell of a read. He goes through a lot. But I can agree that Tyson Fury is a major factor. And he's saying that even if Wilder and Joshua did fight next, Tyson Fury is the man that beat the man. And lineal is important. So if these guys do fight, they still need to fight Tyson Fury to be recognised. Again, I can't disagree with it, but the reality of it is they can. Because you don't need lineal. You don't need Ring Magazine. You don't need any of that to become undisputed. When Lennox Lewis was undisputed, it was for 3 belts. Joshua already has 3 belts. And he puts a lot of emphasis on the WBC. The WBC, he calls it as a jewel in the crown. Listen, it can't really be disagreed with, but since Wilder's had it, he's disrespected it. Look at who it is that he's fought, that he's defended that prestigious title against. Being WBC does not give you an extra few percent. It's just that it's been manoeuvred for Wilder that he had to wait for Vitaly Klitschko to vacate it to then make an assault on it. Why? Because he's a PBC fighter with Al Heyman, right? These guys and WBC have a very good relationship. Make of that whatever you want. Look at the PBC. They've got more WBC champions than any other promotional company. But Wilder never defended it against anybody of any kind of great note. Against Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz, he had no choice. Steven Espinoza of Showtime forced that fight. Again, that does come from Eddie Hearn. So again, you can say Eddie Hearn lied. Okay, fine. But what is a fact is Luis Ortiz was failing the medical 1 hour before the ring walk. And he had to get special permission to have the fight anyway on his own risk. And Wilder struggled in that one. Arguably, the fight could have been stopped in the 7th, at the end of the 7th. Wilder got gifted extra time at the beginning of the 8th. Against Tyson Fury, a guy who's been out of the ring for so long. Wilder couldn't dispatch him. He should have walked through Tyson Fury at this stage of his comeback. But he couldn't do it. Lennox Lewis is just being biased. And, of course, he's saying about, well, the PBC. People are saying that I'm being this because I'm part of PBC. But they weren't saying anything about PBC when I was praising Joshua. Well, first of all, when you were praising Joshua, you were courting him to try and sign him. And second of all, you weren't with the PBC then. You signed him with the PBC is a new thing. Anyway, as I said, I'll put the article in the description box for you all. Go give it a read, come to your own conclusions on it all. But anyway, thanks for listening. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.